3 o'clock hour, Carlos Silva at Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. He has been with us many different times discussing also Texas Tech men's basketball, the great run they made, but he joins us again as Big 12 Media Days. Carlos on his way into Arlington, as Tim Fitzgerald was as well. So let's start with this $200 million football facilities upgrade, and Carlos, what that has given a kind of a jolt again to the football program.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me on. But I think the biggest thing is the timing is perfect for Texas Tech in terms of all the conference realignment. Certainly want to position yourself in a great spot. And I think when you're, bringing up the fact that you're investing $200 million into your football facilities, that's certainly a huge, ace up your sleeve to tell a lot of other conferences, or just, try and get yourself and position yourself in a good spot in the Big 12 or whatever that could be in the coming months and years.
Well, Carlos, you say whatever that could be. Right now it is on track to be the new Big 12, but when realignment stuff sparks up like it has now for the past couple years, I see my fair share of every fan base's fans that says, hey, we should go here, we should go there. There's not a lot of loyalty, that's for sure. If you were to poll the average Tech fan, what are their thoughts on, life in the new Big 12 moving forward versus what their thoughts are on what other options could potentially ever be?
Well, in terms of the options, the first and second obviously would be the SEC Big Ten, but certainly those probably aren't viable options at the moment. But right now, in terms of the new Big 12, if you're Texas Tech, you're trying to see all the parity, you see it all, and you're thinking, well, we could be the top program in this new Big 12 conference, along with some others that are certainly looking to do the same. And I think when you do that, and again, going back to the first question y'all had, a $200 million investment into your football team, if things are going very well for them, certainly things are looking up for Texas Tech football and maybe the rest of their athletic programs.
So how would you compare the anticipation of the Joey Maguire era, which is, of course, started back in even during the season, but really started after that when the season ended? How would you compare the hype for him compared to maybe anything else recently?
I think the best thing you can compare it to is when Cliff Kingsbury was taken away from College Station. He came back as an alum, and certainly the person that was thought to revive this program once again. It's a guy that everyone knew. He obviously brought a lot of success during his tenure at Texas Tech. He was a Mike Leach guy, so everyone just felt really good about him. And I think that's certainly something that Joey Maguire is starting to get. And like you guys said, when the season ended, that was beating Mike Leach with his Mississippi State team. And I think right now the momentum is very good for the Texas Tech football team in terms of, like you said, you have a new football coach where there are a lot of people that were clamoring for him with his Hire Maguire hashtag initially when he was a potential candidate for that job. And once he got hired, you could definitely tell the fan base was reinvigorated by not only his energy, but just the fact that he had so many connections to so many high school football coaches in the state.
Texas Tech picked 9th in the media poll, Carlos, just above Kansas as far as the current 10 goes. I understand there's the trepidation with, having a first-year head coach. It's also what the other schools have coming back as well. But do you see them as the 9th team coming up this season? Do you have higher or perhaps even, more modest expectations?
I could see them somewhere in the 6 to 7, maybe even 5th range right now. But again, it all depends on how the other teams are doing. I think when you look at these polls, you look at what happened last year, and you look at Oklahoma. They're introducing a new head football coach, and many of the new assistants on the offensive and defensive side. You look at some of these other teams, and I think there's a lot of parity that's going to happen that I think is not really accounted for in those pre-conference polls, if you will. And I think for Texas Tech, if you're able to steal a couple wins, you could go from a 5, maybe even 4 that I've seen projected, to a 6 to 7 win team again, just based on if you get a couple of steals at home and maybe if you're able to win a couple road games. But certainly that non-conference schedule is not doing them any favors. But if they're able to get through that, you start Big 12 conference with Texas at home, and certainly the race is on after that.
Carlos, how would you describe Texas Tech's fan base?
Up and down right now. Certainly they're up with the new coach, first year. Fired up after, again, I cannot understate how big of a win it was for Texas Tech to beat Mike Leach after all the, just off the field shenanigans that he was providing during that whole bowl game, into the bowl game, and kind of after the loss as well. So I think that was, in effect, if you want to look at it, I know fans kind of characterize it as just kind of getting a monkey off their back, that Mike Leach monkey. You finally beat him, and then all of a sudden, you have a clean slate, so to speak, and you coach, reinvigoration of the fan base. And not only that, but then you've got, again, I hate to continue to be like a broken record, but that $200 million reinvestment into the football program, that cannot be understated with the way that Texas Tech is looking to position itself in either the new Big 12 or a potential new conference based on the way conference realignment is going.
So I know that, I guess if you ask anybody, they're going to have different expectations, and Joey Maguire is going to have his own set of expectations. But with the excitement level, also with the understanding of this is a process and this is going to build, what do you think the average Texas Tech fan or media person that covers the team, what is the, I guess, sort of baseline expectation for year one with Joey Maguire?
I would say just wait and see. I think the one thing that Joey has that Matt Wells did not have is the fact that the fan base is embracing him.
Yeah.
The fact that he has momentum going into him. The fact that there's investment. Once again, I know broken record, but the fact that you're already seeing the investment going into the program, I think there's a huge boatload of optimism, at least from the fan base, the athletics department. And not only that, but you just figure if you're able to get football going, you've already got men's basketball going. The Lady Raiders program is looking on the up and up. You're trying to get softball started with a new coach and Craig Snyder. And then, of course, Tech baseball, yeah, they didn't have the season that they wanted to, but that's a team that's already built up expectations where if they're not in the CWS, you're a little bit surprised. And obviously everyone's surprised that they didn't make it this year.
Carlos, it's good to have you on. It means that we're right around the corner tomorrow. We'll see you at Big 12 Media Days, of course, for a couple of days as they try to unravel. I asked Tim Fitzgerald this as he was on his way down from Manhattan, Kansas. Do you expect to hear anything other than maybe ideas from Brett Yormark tomorrow when he's introduced at 8:30?
I mean, based on what I've heard and what I've read about him, he's a very, very smart person who likes to prepare what he's about to think. So I'm very interested to see what he does share, because certainly there's going to be a lot of questions that are going to be asked of him. I'm sure the national media is going to be there because, again, he's a new commissioner coming in at a very, very interesting time, I guess is the best way I can describe it, because when you look at it, I mean, there's give and take literally and figuratively with the conference realignment as you kind of look at it going along. And not only that, but then there's certainly opportunities to expand, as Kirby Hocutt's mentioned before and he's mentioned before. So I think when you look at all those factors, I think there's a lot that can be asked of him. And based on his answers, I think he's going to be very, very careful with his words, because I'm sure there's a lot of moving pieces, at least with the Big 12 and maybe even some of the other conferences right now that everyone's been mentioning on the airwaves, pardon me.
One note about the Big 12. Texas and OU, whether they're around for another year or two, whatever happens with that, do you get, even though if someone, Craig mentioned this, if Oklahoma State got a call, whoever got a call, do you get the impression that the ones who survived, again, the 8, along with the incoming 4, are about as close and together as they can possibly be?
I don't know if close and together is the right way to put it. I think right now what you're looking at is what can you do to get the most money for yourself when it comes to dividing a big pot of revenue and TV, and what is the best fit for either if you want to look at the 8 that stay there, or can you kind of look? Because I think that's the one thing that people won't kind of throw out there is everyone's kind of trying to figure it out for themselves right now. You saw it already with UT and OU. You saw it already with UCLA and USC. But now it's a matter of, do you want to save yourself, or do you want to try and see what you can save with, kind of, like you said, combining yourself with some other teams, or like the Pac-10 right now, if you want to call it that. Are you going to try and merge with them? Or are you going to try and add some other teams? It's just that there's a lot of variables, a lot of moving pieces. And I think when you look at everything, I think the best thing you can look at is the fact that they did stay together last year. So maybe there's a little bit of a relationship there. But I think the one thing that they can all agree on is they're going to make sure that OU and Texas are there just to keep the revenue from the grant of rights. And I think that's the one thing they can all agree on.
Thank you, Carlos. Appreciate you. Good to have you on again. And we'll see you soon. Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche-Journal, Texas Tech. Put those pictures up again, Garrett, again of the stadium, a $200 million upgrade in many ways, and how pretty it looks, and what they're trying to do, And, of course, right now, with Joey Maguire entering what will be his first season as the head coach of Texas Tech. All right, when we come back, more to get to.